story time about how I caught my husband cheating on me with our very young nanny. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, I was sending me on Instagram. I'm 45 years old and my husband is 10 years younger than me. When we first got married, my friends kept telling me not to marry someone so much younger. They told me that he would eventually cheat and leave me for someone younger. I refused to believe this though because my husband and I really loved each other. Or at least I thought. We met at a party a few years ago and he made the first move right away. He asked me out on a date and a few weeks later we became boyfriend and girlfriend. A few years after that we got married and after years of trying we finally got pregnant and had twins. They are both 2 years old now. My husband's job requires him to travel a lot. I own a really big salon and business is good. So we have a pretty good life and are able to afford a lot of things for our kids. Since my husband travels, my schedule has to be really flexible. I take care of the kids in the morning and then I go off to work, leaving them with the nanny. Our first nanny was a lot older and she had lots of experience. But she unexpectedly quit on us, so we had to find another one. We decided to look for one of those nanny agencies. We ended up interviewing about 5 nannies, but my husband was set on one of them, and she was the youngest out of all of them, 18. Oh yeah, and the most attractive too. My husband told me that maybe we should try someone younger so that the kids can have fun, and I said yes. The nanny would cover for me for about 4 hours a day when I was at work. Her and I started to get along really well. She would tell me about her boy troubles and I would give her advice. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I caught my husband cheating on me with our very young nanny. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, I sent me on Instagram. The nanny and I started to become really good friends. I even started telling her about the problems I was having with my husband. Little did I know that she was the problem. Like I said in part 1, my husband travels a lot. This is what we would usually fight about. You see, it was actually really easy for him to travel less. All he had to do was pick a different region for his job. Instead of a 6-hour flight, it could have been a 2-hour trip. His excuse was that he would get paid less. When I was telling the nanny about our issues, she told me that I should just let it go and let my husband have his freedom. But the way she said it really bothered me. I ended the conversation and told her that she could go home. When my husband came home, I mentioned to him what the nanny said. I told him that I didn't like the way she told me that I needed to give him his freedom. He started to laugh and said, "She's just a young girl. She's probably just saying what she thinks you need to hear." I decided to listen to my husband and I let it go. A week later, the nanny comes over to take care of the kids. By the way, as soon as she would come to my house, I would serve her a plate of food or make her anything she wanted before I left to work. As she sat down to eat, I could see her messages on her phone, and the name on the messages was the same as my husband's. I asked her why she was messaging my husband and she quickly put her phone in her purse. She didn't even know what to say. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I caught my husband cheating on me with our very young nanny. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, I sent me on Instagram. When I asked her why she was messaging my husband on her phone, she did not know what to say. I asked her if she was okay. Then she replies with, "I just needed some advice for my car." She was so nervous. I asked her to pull out her phone and give it to me. That's when she said no and started putting up a fight. She told me I had no right to check her phone, but I didn't believe her. I ripped her purse from her hands and grabbed the phone. Before I even have a chance to look at the messages, she starts calling me fat and old, and that my husband is planning to leave me for her. Honestly, what she was saying didn't faze me because my goal was to look at the messages. And she was pretty much right. In the messages, my husband promised her to leave me for her, and that he was sick of me and the kids. I began to scroll up and see all of the pictures that they sent each other. You can imagine what they were. By the way, the nanny was only a day from turning 18. Yep. Out of nowhere, she starts breaking plates and glasses and verbally abusing me. She even said that if I didn't leave him alone, that something bad would happen to me. I grabbed her by the arm and threw her out of the house. But I kept her phone, so I called my husband from the phone. When he hears my voice, he hangs up the phone. When he finally got home, we got into a 6-hour fight. I made him leave the house, but apparently the nanny went crazy. She started stalking him and he had to get a restraining order against her. Serves him right. Her parents are threatening to press charges. I don't want my kids to grow up without a father, but I don't want to get back with him. What should I do?
I hate my special needs sister and I'm done hiding it. When my younger sister was born, she almost died from hypoxia. She suffered severe brain damage to the point where doctors doubted she would survive. She has survived and she's 16 years old now. However, she is about as close to brain dead as a living person can get. She can't move, she can't communicate, she can't eat or drink on her own. She has no control over her bowels, so she has to wear diapers. She will never get better and she will never live a normal life. Despite that, my mother has ruined our family, hoping she will have a miracle and recover. My mother has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my sister, everything from wheelchairs to doctor visits. We had to live in a 1-bedroom apartment for 11 years because my mother spent all of the money she made on my sister. And nothing she bought made any difference. She will always be a drooling mess. Since my mother believes she will get better, she made me treat her like she was a real sister. I lost all of my friends growing up because my mom made me take her everywhere I went. If I told my mom I was going to the park, she would say, "Oh, a park? That sounds like something Jess would like. Take her with you." Not once did she stop to think about how absurd she sounded talking to her. One time, my mom took her to a movie theater. They made it barely 30 minutes through the movie movie before staff kicked her out because my sister was making so much noise coughing and choking on her saliva. Despite all this, I somewhat tolerated my sister until a few hours ago. I mentioned to my mother that I had planned a date with a girl I met at work. My mom said, "That sounds like fun, but I'm having coffee with a friend from college, so can you take care of Jess while I'm gone?" I told her that I couldn't because of my date and suggested that she hire a babysitter. My mother then said that I should just take her with me. And then I just exploded. I told her how stupid she was for suggesting such a thing. Bring my severely disabled, crippled sister along with me on a date with a girl because you are too lazy to hire a sitter? How crazy are you to think that's a good idea? Every moment of my life has been about Jess. I'm not supposed to have a career or a family of my own because I need to take care of Jess when my mom dies. My mom even discouraged me from going to college because then I wouldn't be able to take care of her. I told her how much damage she has done to the family because of my sister. We struggled financially my entire life, not because my mom is low income, but because she spent all of our money on Jess. We drove a crappy 1996 Subaru Outback for years, and my mom couldn't afford to buy a new car. But she had no problem shelling out thousands to see a specialist doctor who will say the same thing every doctor has. My sister is a glitch. She's not supposed to be here. She will never live a normal life. There's no reason she shouldn't be put in a home. I'm just so frustrated right now. I'm thinking about cutting ties with her and reconnecting with my father. My dad divorced her once he realized that the rest of his life was going to be taking care of Jess. I can't fault him. My mom forbid me from contacting him, but he's not the bad guy here. Am I wrong for refusing to let my husband's infertile friend name our son? My husband's 33 male best friend, Will, 37 male, is infertile. He got divorced 2 times because of it, and because he lied and hid his infertility. And his life hasn't been the same the day he was told he can't have kids. He has always had a soft spot for children, and when he found out that my husband and I were expecting, he was so thrilled and started buying us gifts and decor pieces that he made from his woodwork for the baby. My husband thinks that those are all nice gestures, but I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable, especially with how much he keeps mentioning the baby. A few days ago, my husband and I found the gender of the baby. The moment we told Will, he started calling the baby a random name he picked and was going to give to his baby if he wasn't infertile. He then started begging us to use this name, and my husband said it was a done deal. I refused, but my husband called me heartless and asked me to do this one small, nice gesture for his struggling friend to give him closure and honor him after all the things he has done for us. I flipped and said, "It's my baby, not his." Will heard this and left immediately. My husband yelled at me saying it's his baby too, and my behavior towards Will was aberrant. He left after him and didn't come back till the next morning. He kept saying the same thing and pressuring me to agree on the name, but I refused. Am I the asshole for choosing this hill to die on? Okay, I don't think you should be mad at Will. I think you should be mad at your husband for just automatically agreeing to it and not discussing it with you first.
Am I the asshole for not allowing my child to change schools so she can dye her hair? I, male 38, have a daughter, Mabel, female 15. I'm Mabel's sole parent. Her mother signed full custody over to me and hasn't been in the picture since our daughter was 1. Being a single dad hasn't been easy, but I'm now married to my wife of 2 years, Sarah, female 39. Sarah has 2 children, female 16 and male 12, from a previous relationship. Before we moved in together, we had an agreement that we wouldn't discipline each other's biological children to prevent any resentment, considering their ages when we got together. For the past couple of weeks, Mabel has been begging me to let her dye her hair purple. I've told Mabel no because unnatural hair colors are against her school's rules. If she comes into school with purple hair, they will keep sending her home until it's a natural color again. This happened to one of my friend's children. This would result in Mabel missing classes, and I just don't want to risk it. I tried to compromise and told Mabel we could do a temporary wash and wash out purple dye over the Christmas holidays, but she is being very impatient. Mabel has now been asking to change schools as there's another school in our area that allows unnatural hair colors. Once again, I told Mabel, am I the asshole for not allowing my child to change schools so she can dye her hair? First of all, it is petty, but Mabel goes to the same secondary school as her step-siblings. We would have to leave the house very early to get them all to school on time. Secondly, the school that Mabel wants to change to has a very, very poor reputation for not teaching the students anything and letting them get away with murder. We live in a small town and word spreads. Thirdly, we've had no problems with Mabel's current school. Her grades are decent, the teachers are good at what they do, and Mabel has lots of friends there. Mabel has expressed no other reason for changing schools other than wanting to dye her hair. I tried to explain to Mabel that her education is more important than this, but she insists that she should be able to look how she wants. Mabel has been complaining about how unfair I'm being to Sarah. Sarah brought it up to me in private and suggested I let my daughter change schools. She said autonomy and self-expression is important and that Mabel should get to make some choices for herself. I shut it down and said that I'm not letting Mabel change schools just so that she can dye her hair. Sarah said I'm being unreasonable and controlling. Edit. We don't live in America. Schools not allowing unnatural hair colors is a pretty standard rule, and the vast majority don't allow it. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole because I want my boyfriend to cut contact with his older female friend from work? For some context, I, female 18, have been dating this guy, male 20, for 6 months now. We have been really close friends for 4 years and had huge crushes on each other in high school. About 6 months ago, we started dating and everything was good, but within the past month, we've been having some serious problems. The day after our car accident, which was on July 10th, my boyfriend befriends this older woman, female 42, from work. We'll call her Gloria. My boyfriend had always had a thing for older ladies as well, so I was a little skeptical. But within hours of knowing each other, she gives him a ride home, and my intuition was telling me something wasn't right. Throughout the first week of knowing each other, he begins to call her almost every day while they're working the same shift or on breaks. He even called her for 41 minutes when he was supposed to be working and got upset when I politely asked what for. She had also been sending very flirty messages and pictures to him. I was upset for obvious reasons. At the end of the work week, I had set up a spa room for him and he came home, did the spa treatments, and proceeded to tell me how he has caught feelings for her within that week. Am I the asshole because I want my boyfriend to cut contact with his older female friend from work? I didn't react negatively, but I did go for a long walk and I had a mental breakdown in the process. I chose to continue our relationship because he hadn't officially cheated on me yet. I know it was stupid. After my request for him to stop seeing her, communicating, or continuing their friendship, he has remained to do so against my wishes. I started making him call me while in the car with her since he clearly wouldn't stop contact. She got upset. She didn't verbally express it, but she didn't talk to him for a month up until last week. I have requested for them to cut contact again because I don't feel comfortable and I feel like our relationship is still in jeopardy. He refuses to listen. He even started lashing out at me and starting a lot of fights lately since in contact with her. We even had a big fight today when he was getting ready for work, and just a few hours ago they hung out during break when he said he would call me. I saw the messages about them meeting up on his tablet, and I am furious. I calmly asked him how was his break and what he was doing to see if he'd tell me the truth. So I'm currently awaiting his response. Am I the asshole in this situation?
I have a TV show idea. A 17-year-old girl wakes up after being in a coma for a year. The doctor said she was in a car accident. The doctors quickly realize that she doesn't remember anything about her life. Eventually, she goes home with a family that she doesn't even recognize. What she was told, she had the picture-perfect life. Wealthy family, great school, great friends, good grades. But as time goes forward, she starts to remember little things. Things that don't line up with what her family has told her. Now she has a choice. She has been put into this perfect life. But will she choose to investigate further what actually happened to her the day of the accident? I'm copywriting this.